But what's your thoughts going into, we say it every week, but a must-win game against West Ham?
I think despite West Ham's really poor form this season, they've still got some quality in that team. They've still got quality, and I'm expecting it to be a really tough game. I wouldn't be surprised if it finishes a draw like our last two games, the 2-0 against Fulham and Liverpool. You look at that West Ham lineup, there's players that are good. You know, Michael Antonio, Jared Bowen, Lucas Paqueta, who they signed from Lyon in the summer. I think it's going to be a very tricky game. Always travelling to West Ham away. The London Stadium's never an easy fixture, in my opinion. But yeah, I think the thing that's given me a bit of a boost is the return of João Felix. I think we haven't seen him in the last three games, and this 50 or 60 minutes that he did play against Fulham was the most exciting attacking football that we've seen, since the earlier weeks of Chelsea this season. So I think having him back into the lineup will be a huge boost for us. So yeah, I've got my lineup on screen now. Obviously, I've gone for the same back four that started against Fulham last Friday. I've stuck with Cucurella simply because I think we need to give Chilwell a bit more rest and a bit more time to recover. And I was at the game, so I didn't properly see it, but I did see a couple people mention that he was kind of limping around the pitch at times. So I think we need to definitely manage Chilwell's minutes and make sure that his recovery process isn't, rushed back. If not, he'll just end up having the same recurring injury. Fernandes, obviously, in midfield, I thought he was really good against Fulham. He looked really comfortable on the ball. Like I said, I almost forgot that he was 22 years old because it felt like he'd been playing in the Premier League for 5-6 years. So really promising debut, and I'm looking forward to watching him again tomorrow. I've gone with Loftus-Cheek next to him. I think that was the same prediction I made for the Fulham game. I think I just want to have that bit of experience alongside him. And obviously, Kovacic, he's back in training, but I still think he's slightly unfit. So I've gone with Loftus-Cheek. But I think I wouldn't mind if it's Carney as well. I think Loftus-Cheek or Carney, it could be, I could pick the name out of the hat because those two players for me could do the job. I think this is where it gets exciting. I think my front four or my three kind of playing behind the striker, Mudryk, Felix and Sterling. Now on paper, I think that's quite exciting. And I think that there's plenty of quality, plenty of pace as well in that front three. And hopefully goals as well. We spoke about not having a lot of goals this season, but I think Felix, Sterling and Mudryk, if they find their shooting boots, they'll get you goals. They will get you goals. And, João Felix as well, I think he's been saying how much he enjoys Chelsea, the training facility, his teammates. And I think this will be the game now where he's probably been really frustrated not to have played a part in the last three, but now he's probably raring to go. Return of Sterling as well. He got I think 15, 20 minutes against Fulham. I think it makes sense to play him. And I've gone with Havertz as my striker. Not entirely enthusiastic about this decision, but I still think maybe Fofana's still a bit raw. He had that chance against Fulham. I think if he's two seasons maybe into the Premier League, he's scoring that chance, but you could tell he was still a bit nervous. But yeah, I've gone with Havertz as my striker. They've got big centre-backs for West Ham, and I think you maybe need to have a bit of aerial ability, which sometimes Havertz can offer you on set pieces.
I like the lineup. I think the lineup. Yeah, I mean, I suppose my only worry is Cucurella, who you'll see in a minute. I've actually gone for as well, but I think bringing Ben Chilwell into a game like this would be very much like Reece James. I actually don't want to see Reece James play the full 90 minutes tomorrow, if possible. We want to try and start with that flair, with that pace down that right side, and hope you get a 1-0, a 2-0 leading into that maybe 60-minute mark into the game, where you can bring off Reece James. We haven't even spoken about Dortmund yet, but that's a game that next week is going to be crucial for us going away, getting those results first in Germany. So I think for me, brilliant lineup. My worry with this is Havertz. As always, I say on here, I do feel that sometimes he does need that 10 chances to get a goal. I think in terms of strength, I think he'll get muscled off the ball so easily. And we've seen it so many times over the last couple of games where, he's in the right positions or he's got the ball and he's just, I don't know if he's not doing weights in the gym. I don't know, but he just seems to be very light on his feet. And that's a worry for me. But I like the flair. I like the flair down the right side and the left, Cucurella. I mean, last week it didn't work with Mudryk and Cucurella. And obviously we found out that Mudryk had a cold or he wasn't well, but he did leave Cucurella isolated at times. And that's probably why Cucurella was playing so poor as well in that game. But I think you've got to stick with Mudryk. You've got to stick with João Felix, who obviously is on a loan deal. So we have to play him. He's not even is he on the bench? He's not. He has to start. We've only got him potentially for 6 months. So I think it'd be silly not to play him. But my team isn't very different to yours, to be fair. I think I've kind of gone for something very similar. I have gone again with Kepa in goal, same back four as you. I actually changed my mind last night. I think I had Carney Chukwuemeka alongside Fernandes, but when you think about these kind of games now, you want a bit more experience, and Ruben Loftus-Cheek is someone who will be able to give you that alongside someone like Fernandes, who's just come into the league. I thought played really well against Fulham, but maybe just need someone alongside him. Or I think in that game it was more Mount and Gallagher were just ahead of him in the team. But I think from what I'm hearing, from what I've checked out online this morning, it could be Conor Gallagher next to Fernandes, which would worry me a lot going into that game against West Ham. You just mentioned some of the key players that they've got at West Ham, and I think if we play Conor Gallagher there, it's leaving Fernandes heavily exposed in that midfield. So I'd go with Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Similar to you, I've gone for Mudryk, Felix, and Raheem Sterling as the three behind the striker. But I have gone for Fofana as my one leading down the middle. I think he's got to be given a chance, especially if Aubameyang is on the way out of the club as well. As we both mentioned, I think Mason Mount should sit this game out, more so because I think he's been in the limelight and he is the scapegoat at the moment. But I do think it gives us the opportunity to see what can happen with the three of Sterling, Felix, and Mudryk. Sterling obviously tends to likes to predominantly play on the left side, but I think if we can play him on the right side with Reece James as well, I think that's where we're going to get that sort of balls into the box to Fofana. And similar down the left side, I think Mudryk and Cucurella can do a job there. And I'm looking forward to seeing Felix because we only got to see almost a cameo against Fulham at Craven Cottage before he got sent off. And I think he's got a massive role to play in the next couple of months for us. I think he's got so many qualities, but we just haven't been able to see him yet. So I'm expecting a good performance tomorrow. I really am. And Badiashile we haven't mentioned, but to keep his place in the team is key. I think that partnership with Silva is going to be so crucial, not just for this game, but potentially for the next 3 or 4 months of the season. But as you mentioned, Kovacic is coming back. That's a big sign for us as well. And N'Golo Kante, I think, is back in training now. And obviously Ben Chilwell. So there's a lot of options that we're going to have over the next couple of weeks that we haven't had.
Dennis Zakaria and Wesley Fofana, I think, are back on the grass now as well. Another
2. So I think the question I suppose I'm building up to is this the time now where Graham Potter... his job's not on the line. I don't want to say that, but if we lose tomorrow, I mean, there's going to be question marks because there is going to have to be question marks. I mean, West Ham, almost bottom of the league. They're chasing points. Everton have got a new manager now, so they'll be climbing up the table. You'd like to think, but if West Ham beat us tomorrow, this is the clock is started to tick. I think for Graham Potter in terms of getting things right on the pitch, and he's going to have time, but. Surely this is a game that he has to go in with the quality that we've just put on the screen to get 3 points tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the clock started ticking as soon as it hit midnight on deadline day. He got all of those big signings he wanted, or the club wanted. We spent God knows how much throughout January. We went through those lineups we just had on screen there. There's a lot of quality in those 2 11s, and it almost feels like there's no excuses now to drop points against West Ham. Sure, it's a London derby. Sure, it's away from home. There'll be nerves. There'll be pressure. But there's no excuses. We've got quality. We've got experience. We've got £100 million players. You feel like if we can't beat West Ham, like you said, they don't have a new manager like Everton. It's the same David Moyes that has been trying to drag them out of the relegation battle. They don't have that new manager bounce that Everton and Sean Dyche have. I think there's no excuses for tomorrow. There's no excuses.
And we've got options off the bench. We've got to remember that we've got some really good options now. So for me, this has to be a really convincing performance. If it's got to be dirty and scrappy, and we've got to, we've got to do it. But I think we've got to show the intention straight away, because I think if you remember the game last season, we allowed West Ham to come back into the game in spells. We had really good spells, I think, in the second half, if I remember correctly. But if it was Messi, I think that really let us down in that game. the concentration for the penalty and also for the goal at the end as well. More so his position, and I think for that final goal, I think that was last season.
Yeah, it was 12:30 kickoff. I remember early December. Yeah, Mendy Howler for both goals. He tried to dribble past Bowen, I think it was, gave away a penalty. Then let Masuaku. It was not a shot. It was a cross, and it crept in.
It was a cross, but it was just one of those lucky ones, wasn't it? That went in the back of the net. But we've got to get 3 points. I mean, I'm still convinced the season's a write-off, but we still want to be finishing as high as the table as possible. And these are the games that we have to win. We have to beat these games. It's got to be a win. I'm going to ask you a prediction before we wrap up, so I'm going to let you go first as always. Going into this game, the lineups we've just put on the screens, surely it's a win tomorrow.
I know that we've really lacked goals in the last couple of games, all season in fact, but I think tomorrow is going to be a bit of a goal fest for both teams. West Ham won this fixture last season 3-2, but I think Chelsea will win it tomorrow 3-2. So I'm going for Chelsea 3, West Ham 2.
I'm going to stick with my usual. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to do 2-1. I always think we've got issues in our defence, our build-up play at times, and we do lose possession of the ball. I think West Ham are going to be really good from set pieces tomorrow. I think you mentioned some of the names and the heights they have in their team in terms of corners and free kicks. I think they'll score possibly from a piece. That's going to be their danger. I think trying to get the ball into the box as much as they can, but I think we've got everything in that team to get at least 2 goals and the 3 points. The other thing I haven't spoken about, which I was going to talk about, is I reckon Graham Potter might revert back to a back 5 with the 3 centre backs.
He might. We're getting a lot of players back from injuries. We've got Dortmund in mind on next Wednesday. There might be some change in formation, some rotation. You mentioned Hall before making your decision with Cucurella. I think it could be a chance for him maybe to feature a left wing back. With you at back 3, maybe Koulibaly could come back in alongside Silva and Badiashile. You never know, but I think it's definitely an option, yeah.